I took a trip out to Dublin a few years ago, and everybody's talking about Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor! The crowd are chanting.
From the second I meet this kid.
The king of Las Vegas, Dana White, the king of Dublin, the notorious Conor McGregor.
I said, I don't know if this kid can fight, but if he can even throw a punch.
This is why everyone's been talking about Conor McGregor all over.
He's going to be a huge superstar.
Welcome to the UFC, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So, there's been a lot of hype. I guess the hype is real, man.
Listen to this Dublin crowd as they welcome their fighting son. Wow! That is it! Conor McGregor! We're not here to take part, we're here to take over.
The first time I fought Conor, that was his first big test in the UFC.
Poirier is one of the best on earth.
Where I was at that time, he got into my head.
He's afraid. He's a scared little boy. Dustin's little pea head is going to get removed, and I'm going to get on my way to the gold.
I've never disliked somebody that much I've ever fought. All that talk and everything over the months just sat in my head. When the bell rang, I was like a deer in the headlights.
Oh, he tagged him in the left. He heard him. That's it. It's over. Wow.
Even back then, he had a lot of hype, but didn't have that win that really did it, and then that might have been the one. After that, he just started knocking everybody out.
Unbelievable. The first punch he threw. History has been made. The first man ever to hold two titles simultaneously.
That is good. His star has risen faster than anybody in this organization.
Everywhere I go, I hear about Conor McGregor.
He became such a huge superstar.
He's done it all right, but you can have all the money in the world, but you can't buy heart. And I got that.
Dustin Poirier has emerged from losses a better fighter. He has fought for everything he's ever done. Made him full of his mind.
Every time I lose, I come back stronger. That's why, in the second fight with Conor, I knocked his ass out.
Dustin Poirier has knocked out Conor McGregor! Are you kidding me right now?
I lost that night. It stung, and I must get that back.
You're like the ghost. You're haunting me.
Me and Conor need to do this a third time. Both guys knocked each other out. We owe it to each other to get back in there and see what's up.
Now I have an opportunity to get my revenge.
One of the most iconic fighters in mixed martial arts history. He wants to regain his position at the top of the heap. He really does want to be nothing but the best. He has beat world champion Evander Henry. This is a massive, massive event. The hottest ticket in UFC history. The king is back. Let's go.
With Nordic Track, the results you want start here.
Let's go on a journey through Antarctica.
All right, we're here. This is Ted Hicks, Late Night Parents. We usually don't do shows like this, but we thought we would do something for the novice fan, something for the fair weather fan. Big fight coming up with MMA, so we got a lot of dads that like MMA, combat sports. Thought we would bring in none other than our guy, Mr. B. JoJo is in the building. Mr. B, what's going on?
First of all, thank you for having me on here. And I am very well, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Big fight tomorrow. A lot going on. Let me make sure I get this correct. The setup. Okay, there we go. So we got the main event. We got a lot happening in the world of MMA. I thought I would dip my toe in it because I'm an avid novice fan. I like to watch, these matches. I love MMA. I've been watching for several years. Hang on one second. Let me make sure my mic is. I'm gonna have to change my mic. Okay, mic check, mic check. Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
You're all
So, yeah, I want to thank you for coming through. I've got several questions from some of our dads who I queried about mixed martial arts. I mean, we love boxing, we love mixed martial arts. We kind of like the four major sports organizations that are out there, but with basketball, closing, NHL just closed, MLB heading into the All-Star break, and football, football is going to heat up very, very shortly. We thought it's a great time to talk MMA. Once again, I want to welcome you to the show. Before we get into the main event, what do you think, Jojo, of the overall card? What should the novice fan like myself be prepared for UFC 264?
All right, Ted. For the novice fan, those of you who are just gonna tune in for this card, prepare yourself for a lot of craziness going on. This card is built on 13 fights, if I remember correctly, and a lot of them are competitive. Very competitive. We have some ranked fights in between these. I think there's about let's say like 6 out of the 13, about half or more of these are based on ranked opponents, top 15 opponents, we'll say then, because their rankings, UFC rankings, are between the champion, but then there's like between 1 and 15.
Okay.
So there's a lot of fights here that are between those number 1 guys and the 15 guys, or girls, and in some cases on this card, because there's 2 lady fights, 2 women fights. One in flyweight and one at bantamweight that are between. One is between, both of them are between top 10 females.
Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of these fights are high ranked opponents, very serious fights. We're seeing some names in here you could be very excited for. If you was to go and click up on YouTube real quick for a highlight reel, you'll see them and you'll go, oh my goodness, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. You know what I mean? And then you have the main event, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. But all those fights on the card are pretty solid fights to look forward to. I can tell you that for sure.
So we know this is the trilogy. Win or lose, would it have been smart for McGregor to move up in weight class to fight Dustin Poirier for the third, hopefully the final fight, but we don't know.
Dustin, there's a funny thing. Some people don't know, but if you're really looking into it and you read in the articles, then you know. But Dustin wanted this fight at 170.
Right.
Conor refused the fight at 170. But what some people don't know is that the UFC also refused to make this fight at 170 to make it a serious bout for the next contender for the lightweight title, which is held right now by Charles Oliveira after he beat Michael Chandler for it just a few months ago, in emphatic fashion, might I add. So right now, Charles Oliveira is holding the title. There's not quite a clear-cut opponent. They want a big name for Oliveira, and you get it right here between these two, and Poirier and McGregor.
What do you think of jumping up 2 weight classes? Is that unheard of, or?
It's somewhat normal. Conor McGregor used to fight at featherweight. He had moved up to lightweight. After he won the featherweight title from Jose Aldo a few years back, he moved up weight class. You know what I mean? Then he moved up weight class to take some fights at welterweight. But it's not fairly it's pretty normal for some guys, you know what I mean, some people to move up a weight class or two, drop 3 weight classes. We had some fighters like Genki Sudo. Genki Sudo was a Japanese MMA fighter. He's really famous because he ran for politics up in Japan. But that guy he jumped down like 4 or 5 weight classes. To get as low as what I think lightweight or featherweight, but he was a lightweight, a welterweight, a middleweight, a light heavyweight, and at one point I think a heavyweight. BJ Penn had fought Lyoto Machida some years back as a heavyweight, and he was primarily known as a lightweight fighter, but he fought over at Pride because at the time they had no lightweights. They were out of the lightweight game in the UFC. So BJ Penn said, to hell with this. I'm going to Japan to look for fights. And he really took a fight at nearly heavyweight to fight Lyoto Machida, who was a former UFC champion. Yeah, crazy. But that happened. And Joe Diesel Riggs is one guy that's known, too, to jump down weight classes. He jumped down 5 weight classes. He was a massive heavyweight. And he dropped all the way down to lightweight.
Wow.
And he competed in each weight class. Same thing with Genki Sudo. Crazy. And weight cuts are no joke. But for guys like that to jump down that many weight classes, it's a real testament to their willingness to compete, you know what I mean, and make those weight cuts and, you know, go out and be healthy, you know, and get themselves fit for those types of fights, you know.
So Jojo, I want to stop you there. Explain to the novice fan about weight cuts, if you could do that really quickly.
Oh, sure. For people who don't know, MMA, similar to boxing, has weight classes. And in those weight classes, you're required to meet a certain weight to be able to compete. And then you can go on ahead and do whatever you got to do. In order to compete in those weight classes, you have to cut weight. Now, let's make an example. Khabib Nurmagomedov, who was the UFC lightweight champion before Charles Oliveira.
Right.
He had to cut weight to 155, and his walk around weight was somewhere around I want to say 175 or like 180 something.
Okay.
Yeah, so he would have to cut about somewhere between 20 and probably 35 pounds to make the 155-pound limit. Now, you don't have to be crazy to cut that type of weight to make the 155-pound limit. You could fight at a higher weight class. But some of the people rather have the size and the weight advantage. So they will go ahead and do try their hardest, you know, go to the sauna and, you know, diet, get the nutritionist and cut that weight to 155. Now, when they go in for the weigh-ins of the fight now, you have to meet that 155-pound mark. Sometimes if it's a non-title fight, they give you a grace pound. So that's 156, a pound above that limit. So now Khabib will come in and you look skinny, you look depleted, you're out of water, you want hydration, you want food.
Right.
And there you go to weigh on the scale. You make the weight. Now, immediately as you make the weight, you go off the scale, you go somewhere and you get your hydration. You see guys drinking, you know, the electrolytes, getting their Pedialyte, their water, whatever they got to get, eat as much food as they can and rehydrate. Now, to rehydrate, they give you a weight that you can't cross over to fight when it comes fight night.
Okay.
And some of these guys, some of these fighters, I think the grace period of as far as weight, depending on the weight class, I think for lightweight, I think it's 20 pounds or something like that, a little bit above that. So you will see a guy who's 155 looks scroggly, and then when they come fight night, you're looking at them like, whoa, what in the world happened? And now this guy is about 175, 180, and you're like, whoa, that's a big dude. How am I supposed to handle that? So some of these fighters look for those weight advantages. You know what I mean? If they could cut the weight, then you can't really argue about it. But if there's weight cutting issues where people are getting sick, they can't manage that. Organs are functioning bad because your kidneys could shut down and stuff like that because of weight cutting. We haven't had it in the UFC yet, but over in Singapore for one fighting championship, there was a fighter. Yeah, one FC, one championship. Yes. There was a fighter who died a few years ago due to weight cutting. So what they did, they adapted the hydration protocol, similar to something that Pride Fighting Championships kind of did, where they upped the weight, the weight cutting, so it would look like, okay, you see Khabib cuts 155, he has to cut weight to get to 155. Instead of that, they would grace period and give you 15 pounds. So they move him. It looks like as if they moved him up a weight class.
Right.
So he'll walk up and he'll weigh in for as if he was trying to fight at welterweight. So now he's at 170, where he don't have to cut that much weight, but he looks healthy because if you cut in at 155, you're gonna hydrate to somewhere around that 170 mark anyway. So they try to give him a grace period to cut that weight and make sure their hydration is proper. You know what I mean? They run tests or whatever. So that's what's happening in Singapore. But as far as here in the States, we haven't had nobody really, pass away due to that. But it is an issue because we've had people faint, organs have shut down.
Right.
We've lost cars because of it. So yeah, we've lost fights, because people end up going to the hospital and whatnot because of it. Yeah.
So what does Dustin Poirier need to do to win again in the main event?
This one's gonna be a little tricky, Ted. I'll tell you why. In their first fight, Dustin Poirier got overwhelmed. He got overwhelmed due to the moment. He fed into the trash talk by Conor. He came in there wide-eyed because it's a big moment because Conor's that guy.
Right.
He's that guy. He carries that magnitude. Everybody comes in and they're attracted to his trash talk, his aura, that level of confidence he brings in. So when you got to face him, it's you versus him versus the fans versus the moment. And when you have all that together, it's hard, especially if you're not used to being in that moment.
Right.
So he got overwhelmed. He got washed away. You know what I mean? In the first fight, he got cleaned. This second fight came, and we're in the post-pandemic, and Dustin's improved. He got his boxing going. All that's happened. Now he's familiar with Conor. Conor was, coming back. The thing that was talked about was that Conor was preparing for a fight, a boxing fight.
Right.
He was preparing a box for against Manny Pacquiao at the time, but it didn't happen. So he ended up taking this fight with Poirier. So he went in there, had his fight. He came in with somewhat prepared, but he was, they blame it on him being thinking more boxing orientated.
Right.
So he had the closed legs in, stance was tight. And Dustin came out and Dustin said, hey, that's what he's coming with. You know what I mean? That's what his mind's going to be at. Well, I knocked him out. I could come in here with the boxer stance and I could catch him again.
Right.
That was his mentality. Conor's was, because he prides himself on his boxing. Guy got footwork and whatnot, but he prides himself on his range and his boxing ability. That dynamic left is no joke. And when he lands with precision. He keeps you at the end of his strikes, which is a scary thing for a guy who's confident, believes in his KO ability. So he comes in there fighting Dustin. And Dustin looked and seen that. So Dustin goes ahead and says, hey, you know him. He has ATT, the training camp, American Top Team out in Florida. He has a great coach and a man by the name of Mike Brown. Hey, Mike, what's happening? So,
Mike, what's
I'll
going
be right
on?
back, man. And Mike Brown is a
Love you
tactician.
back, man.
Mike is a tactician. He's also a former UFC, I'm not MMA fighter, a guy who's pretty nasty, big time wrestler. He's good at figuring out an opponent. So he came out. Yeah, he did fight for the UFC too. I forget that before the WEC run. But yeah, he came in and he gave Poirier the readout. We're gonna attack the legs. We're gonna see what he does. We're gonna eat. We're gonna eat what he throws at us, and we're gonna do what we gotta do. We're gonna figure him out. We're gonna feel him out. So they felt him out there the first round. Conor came in with the big punches, throwing a lot of good power behind his strikes. He came in that boxer stance. So the legs were tight. So they read it and they prepared with calf kicks. Now, calf kicks are killers. If you don't know, you see
Yes.
guys get hit with leg kicks. Leg kicks, they hit the side of the leg. They can hit the thigh. You can hit the knee. But a calf kick is a very, very complicated kick where people don't quite know how to prepare themselves to block a calf kick, because those things just wrap around and you can hit a tendon, you hit your shin, you can hit the you know what I mean? It's very, very effective, and it's hard for you to get a read on it, for you to you know what I mean, to what they call it, to parry, you know what I mean? You would throw up your leg. If somebody
Mhm.
throws a leg kick, you would throw it and they would hit the shin, and it could cause a break, similar to what happened to Anderson Silva when he fought Chris
Right.
Weidman a while back.
Right.
Same thing that happened to Chris Weidman when he fought Uriah Hall a little while back. The shin could snap and there goes your leg. But right now it's hard for a lot of people to figure out those calf kicks. They're hard to block, and you know what I mean, you just can't quite tell when it's going to be a leg kick or when it's going to be a calf kick. So Conor got hit with a bunch of those, and those legs started going to sleep. Those things hurt. They numb your leg. It's very hard. And if you eat a couple of those, oh, your leg is in trouble. You know what I mean? You have some legendary leg kickers. But if you could teach somebody who could kick, who has an all right kick, and you teach them the calf kick, oh
Okay.
boy. Oh boy. So Conor ate those. Movement went south. So you know what I mean? He did good because he blocked the takedown in the first round. He did hit Dustin with some close range strikes, a couple elbows and some punches here and there. But Dustin ate those, as I said. They were waiting to see what Conor would throw, and then they went at it. And once they limited Conor's striking, it was just a matter of time, Ted. Dustin poured it on. And I tell you one thing, if there's a guy who could finish a fight, it's Dustin Poirier. And that man threw shots, and put him down. So
Yes.
for this one here, he has to mix it up. He might not get as lucky as he did. I can't even say lucky. He might not have the opportunity to throw those calf kicks, depending, because when Conor fights with a wide stance. He fights using somewhat of a karate stance almost, where he's able to use a push kick, a push/front kick. He could dart a little bit and hit the oblique. He could throw the leg kick with his back leg, but it also, keeps him at bay from being able to move and distance himself to land those punches. As I say, those combinations. He got a good uppercut. He has a nasty lead uppercut to his dynamic left, and he has those shots. So Dustin's gonna have to do some things, mixing up that calf kick, but definitely throwing in wrestling. There is something to be noted about wrestling and Conor McGregor.
Okay.
You can throw Conor's rhythm off badly if you could get a takedown and you could keep that takedown for a while. If you don't allow him to try to fight off that takedown, you will throw off his rhythm bad. Um, this has been proven in the Khabib fight, and this was shown a little bit in the Poirier fight. The thing with Poirier, though, with the thing is that now Conor is a little bit used to throwing those mid-range strikes. So those mid and clinch range strikes, those close range strikes.
Mhm.
When I say clinch, face to face, real
Right,
in.
right.
Yeah. So he's using shoulder strikes. He's using short elbows and forearms, which are legal, to hurt his opponent. You know what I mean? So if you throw those takedowns though, and you can hold him down for quite a bit, he gets frustrated. He gets very frustrated, and it throws his rhythm off completely. It gets him. It's somewhat of a mental block.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dustin's gonna have to mix this game up, avoid fighting on the outside, and trying to get his range in there. Dustin's good with the mid-range striking. He's good with using his jab, but Conor's jab is a little different. He's a little bit more cleaner than Dustin, as far as when the long range. But if Dustin could keep this mid-range, whoo, he got it, man. He could do his thing and he could get this done. Just
So,
fire.
quickly on the flip side, what is it's a combo question. What does Conor need to do to win? And if he does, should there? Here's the combo question: should there be? And Mike, you can answer in the comment field. Should there be a fourth fight? And if so, this is your Common Core question because it's a question inside of a question inside of a question. If so, should it be at 155?
If there's a fourth fight, there got to be a draw. That's how I feel about it. Yeah, there has to be a draw. For Conor though, Conor to win, Conor got to get back to form. We got to see takedown defense showing up. We got to see the movement going. We got to see the confidence back. His belief in it. He can't be scared of being taken down. He has to put things to work. This is not just about fighting hands and boxing. He has to set some of these things up with his kicks. He could throw good kicks. Don't get me wrong. He got a spinning back kick. He got some body kicks he could throw, some leg kicks. He's good with those things, but he doesn't quite use them often. Depending on the opponent. But he does a lot with his boxing. He got to get into form, slip some punches, counter some punches, pour it on Dustin. You can't let Dustin catch rhythm. You can't let Dustin catch boxing rhythm, because when he starts catching boxing rhythm, he's coming into you. He's gonna tap you. He's gonna start throwing combinations. He throws at crazy angles in mid range, and those are mid range punches. They're kind of difficult to maneuver or prepare for compared to a long range strike. Thing with Conor is fast with his long range. He's so used to fighting that range, it causes problems for a lot of guys. And as Mike is saying, that left hand is a problem.
Okay.
That left hand is a problem. When you know what I mean, if Conor sets it up, it's it could be a bad day. But 155 seems to be that place though, where it looks like Dustin's managing to take that that power from that left. Compared to a lot of people getting dropped by that left, he's managed to just shake off that left. It happened in the last fight, which I was a little bit surprised, but kind of just got to set it up more, set that punch more. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
set up that left hand, get that lead right. He's known for the lead right uppercut to the left cross, or he hooks it up with a hook, right hook, left cross. But once he catches them, he has to set it up and just put you away. He has to fold them. like he did Eddie Alvarez back in UFC 205. He has to do that. You have to pour on and not let up.
So, hey, to close this out, Poirier versus McGregor, who wins? Mike, please put your comments in the field too. Who wins?
Oh man. Yeah, I'm this is a big opportunity, man. I can't see Dustin squandering it. Connor looks to be prepared to fight, but I think he's trying to get himself mentally hyped for this fight, man. And that's something that's kind of weird. So Dustin looks calm and casual. I might be looking at Dustin at this one, but I could be horrifically wrong. But I might be looking at Dustin Poirier at this one because Dustin's given up a title opportunity to take this third fight, man. So there's a, you know what I mean? Dustin, I'm thinking Dustin could take this win here, man.
Okay.
I'm thinking Dustin could take this win here.
And let's see. Big Mike says straight fast. I hate that Dustin is mentally bothered by the crowd. My only thing, he's picking Diamond, but I'm probably gonna cry.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. Yeah, you always got to prepare yourself for those things too, man. When you're rooting for somebody, and the possibility of them losing, you know what I mean. You can't get mad if they lose though, because the other guy's prepared. But you know, there's so much hate on Conor McGregor.
There is. It's no different than, you know, Mayweather dusting it off every once in a while and coming out, and you know the world hates him, but you know he's so good and you got to respect it. I've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Sure. PEDs in MMA, are they getting a handle on it?
Ooh, compared to what they used to do?
Yes.
Man, they've gotten a solid handle on it now. That depends on the organization though. There's some PED usage that's going on. Some of it is really under, you know what I mean, low level where you probably don't see. Well, the UFC got, you know, USADA on there, and you know they've been picking up people left and right. We had Bellator, and Bellator was doing, you know what I mean, Bellator had a scenario because they were on Indian ground at one point. So they weren't allowing PED situation, you know what I mean? They weren't allowing testing because they were on Indian ground, which was kind of crazy because the Mohegan Sun. So they weren't allowing, they were disavowing PED testing. So it was just like they could have fights. They weren't really doing PED testing, but they cracked on a little bit more now, you know, because they travel everywhere else. And you know, they switched owners. So, you know, Scott Coker, before it was Bjorn Rebney that was in there. And Bjorn Rebney didn't really give a damn. So there was a situation. There was a situation where, you know, Mohegan Sun was there and they just didn't care. They would just have the fight. So nobody was really getting tested at that time. But, you know, UFC wasn't. And then, you know, because you have to make the sport mainstream, they went in for the USADA, you know. So people are getting caught all through the lines through certain organizations. I don't know about one and they're testing because it's in Singapore. So I don't know.
Right.
I'll keep it 100 with you, Ted. I don't know.
Got you.
In Japan, in Japan, however, there's a situation, man. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn, man. I will tell you, Edson Inoue, a former Pride fighter, showed up that they had a contract that was allowing you. They pretty much gave you the okay to use PEDs. in their contracts.
Wow.
Yeah, he was one of the
Wow.
guys to talk about it. And so you had dudes, man, that were just juiced to the gills, you know what I mean? So it was just insanity, you know? And it does make for a really cool product, but people putting their lives at stake for this for the sake of looking bigger and being mightier, you know what I mean? Being stronger, built, massive, you know. So there were guys. I'll tell you, Ted, for people who are casual, you know what I mean? The casual fan who doesn't know, look
Right.
into the history, and I hate to bring his name up, but he is a prime example. Alistair Overeem.
Oh,
Alistair Overeem.
yes.
Alistair Overeem fought as a light heavyweight, and that man was the skinniest man in the universe at light heavyweight.
Yes.
This man disappeared
And came back.
as Uberine. That's what we call them, Uberine. This man was over 280 pounds.
Yes.
This dude was hold on before I continue. Can I curse? Is it okay if I?
Yeah. You
PG
can. You
here,
can. You
curse?
can.
Okay.
It's late night. It's late night.
All right. He was a brick shit house. Like I'm saying, this dude was a mutant, Ted. He had no neck. You know what I mean? We talk about Brock Lesnar and how Brock Lesnar's big.
Right.
Alistair Overeem was something else. You even could compare when they fought each other in the UFC. Brock's second to last UFC fight against when Overeem came in. Come on, man. Like this dude was a titan. He held 3 titles. He had the Dream title in Japan. He had a K1 kickboxing title, and he had the Strikeforce heavyweight title. He cleaned the whole K1 division pretty much, for the most part, when he came back as Overeem. He did lose some fights. Badr Hari beat him up in K1. Badr Hari, legend. Give him his respect. But he lost to some guys, and that's skill. That skill, regardless if you have the PEDs, skill will trump you at times. So he has that chin too. Overeem has that chin. He's chinny. He gets hit, he goes down sometimes. You know what I mean? He's been knocked out quite a bit. I think like 14 times or something like that.
Man.
And he's competed in both kickboxing and MMA. So you got to think about that. But yeah, so Japan, they didn't care about PEDs. UFC is trying to do a lot better for their PED usage because mainstream is here. So you got to get more of those people to come and watch. If not, then it puts a bad look on UFC. So UFC is doing their job right now as far as PEDs are going. They've caught guys, guys and gals. Bellator is trying to catch up on that thing. The PFL, which is doing their season this year now because they were out last year, they've caught some people, and thanks, Mike. And
thank you, man.
So it's going down the board, man. People realize that things are at stake when you don't have proper regulation about these PEDs. But as Mike has said, I do miss the PED days, though.
Hey, I got one final question. I want to make one statement.
Sure.
And then one final question for you. And then we're going to try and wrap this up because I know it's late. And I told you 30 to 35 minutes, and we're at 39 minutes. So we're in overtime.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, Ted, if you want to talk a little bit more, I have no problem with it. I have no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So statement is I read in the I'm not sure which publication, but ONE FC is coming to the United States.
Yes.
And I said, oh my goodness. I was like, okay, this opens things up because I know they have partnership with Turner Sports.
Right.
But does ONE FC, where do you rank ONE FC? It's I kind of see it as a novice. I see it's under Bellator, but above what? Like CES or it's above, you know, PFL? Or how do you rank ONE FC?
ONE FC. All right, we got to break to rate ONE FC. We got to break it down into some certain parts. We got to break it down into fighters, management, and production. I think production wise they do good because production, that's like like marketing stuff, to put put their fighters out there, how the events look, the spectator aspect of it. I like it. They do the fireworks, they do the songs,
Right.
they do the music. Some of their fighters are pretty out there, charismatic. They do their little dances and they do the little intros. It's pretty cool. They have the Pride lady. There's a lady that's in Pride that used to do the announcements. So she'll do all the yelling. She'll be like, on this corner, it's there. She used to do all this craziness. She's known. I forget her name, but she's very known. She's known as the Pride lady, but she's out there as ONE in ONE. She does some of the events for ONE there. Their production is pretty cool. Fighters, they're starting to get recognizable fighters. It took them quite a while because they signed some UFC people here and there. But they're getting a lot of recognizable fighters. The thing is that it's more so for the hardcore fan in the Singapore, the Asian community. They have they say a pretty big fan base, but as far as the States go, there's a lot of unfamiliar names, but their fights are pretty good. What they've picked up on is kickboxing.
Okay.
They've managed to regular US style kickboxing and Muay Thai. So if I had to rate them, they would be below Bellator, above the PFL because the PFL is like a seasonal type thing.
Right.
That's the only drawback. That's the reason why I would say above PFL because of that. PFL has a couple bigger names, but only because of that. Only because it's seasonal. They do seasonal things while ONE, UFC, Bellator, they run throughout the year. So
Gotcha.
So I would put them there.
Okay.
So
Final question is on Johnny Bones Jones.
Sure. He's an interesting topic.
He is
right now.
He's a topic that there could be an entire live stream, and I would love to see you and Mike together on a live stream just to talk about Johnny Bones Jones. But just for you to provide your words of wisdom and your knowledge on Mr. B and I always down. Oh, okay.
Word,
and
man.
Mike says he's tipsy as F. But so the last question I was given was, would you define Jon Jones as the greatest light heavyweight champ? And a follow-up question is thoughts on Jon Jones and his only heavyweight competition, Ngannou, Francis Ngannou.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's go. The first part of that question, Jon Jones. This is how I gotta say it. Jon Jones has been caught in some serious situations with PEDs.
Yes.
That's the only thing. That's the only blemish in his record. You know what I mean? The whole PED usage. He's always been caught up. PEDs. He's been out. PED use. They found this. They found cocaine in the system.
Right.
Picograms. I mean, this guy.
Mr. B.
I'm sorry.
If he had a morals clause in his contract, he would have violated like 5 times over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For some people, they would have already taken John Jones out of the organization.
Right.
But he's a draw.
He
Not
is a
only is
draw.
he a draw, he is pretty damn good at fighting. Let me
Yes.
tell you.
Yes.
To consider him the greatest light heavyweight, you would have to be crazy not to consider him the greatest light heavyweight in the
Okay.
UFC. You would have to be absolutely out your mind to say he is not the greatest greatest light heavyweight in the UFC. I will tell you why. John Jones literally cleaned his division. When you sit and think about it, this man beat up people to get to where he is. He beat Shogun Rua. He choked Lyoto Machida unconscious. Literally left him as a sack of potatoes. Quentin Rampage Jackson, he embarrassed that man. Damn near took out Quentin Jackson's knee because of the knee kicks, the oblique kicks.
Right.
He took out. Yeah, Quentin couldn't walk properly for some weeks, but he put that man away. Beat his mentor Rashad Evans. Cleaned that man. Shut him down in Rashad's wheelhouse.
Yes.
Rashad's a big-time Division I wrestler, and John Jones shut him down using wrestling, using the whole aspects that Rashad is good at. He beat him at his own game. He Rashaded Rashad. That is madness. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He beat Glover Teixeira. He fought Alexander Gustafsson twice. He beat Gustafsson, and that really tried him, you know. That was a tough battle between Alexander Gustafsson the first time. He almost lost that fight, but came back to win that fight. Him and Daniel Cormier, DC, you know, they went through it. And, you know, he beat him. You know what I mean? The list goes on and on. You know, he fought Thiago Santos, beat him. He fought Reyes. That was a close fight, but he beat him. You know, John Jones, as I say, man, is a great fighter, but only those things taint them. But I would still consider him the greatest light heavyweight.
Okay.
Now, as for the situation at heavyweight,
Mm-hmm.
they're playing games. Let me say, they're playing games, man. You know, they're playing games with John Jones. They're playing games with Francis Ngannou because I don't know if you know, but they threw an interim title fight out here between Derek Lewis and
Yes.
Cyril Gane.
But is
Two
it next month or is it next week? In 2 weeks?
It's in a bit, quite a bit. A couple months or so.
Oh,
Like
okay.
a month or so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they couldn't. Yeah, it's I think it's like within a month or so, some weeks to a
Right.
month, something like that. Because Ngannou said that he wasn't gonna be ready. You know what I mean? He needed the time
Right.
to prepare if he was gonna fight Derek Lewis. So UFC said, if we're not gonna do it, you know, we're gonna make this fight instead. And then Dana White says, oh, we didn't have to have Ngannou, you know, as the champion. We could, you know, throw him out because he doesn't want to fight, which is absolute bullshit.
Right.
Francis Ngannou is like one of your stars in the heavyweight division. The hell, he's your star at the heavyweight division. Next to he's there next to Stipe because Stipe is blue collar and everybody could respect a blue collar fighter. You know what I mean? This guy's a firefighter, and an MMA fighter at the same time.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
when he's training and he's, you know, saving his community from whatever's going on out there. They play games with Ngannou. So they have Gane and Derek Lewis fighting for the interim title. Francis just won the title 3 months ago.
I
Give
know.
that man his break and let him fight when he's ready to fight. Francis wanted to fight John Jones because they know the money that they could generate.
Crazy.
They wanted to fight during the quarantine, but I could respect them. I could respect the idea of not fighting in quarantine and waiting until fans come out, because the gate is crazy. That gate that they could generate will be madness. The fans that come out, ridiculous. Come on, man. You're talking about the biggest KO artist that you got right now in the UFC in the heavyweight division, other than Derek Lewis. Next to the greatest light heavyweight of all time, who's still in his prime right now.
Yes.
Come on.
Question, and just to piggyback off of what Mike said, I heard Jones is bulking up.
Have you seen Jones bulk up? Have you seen
No.
Jones bulk up right now?
I haven't.
Holy hell. I think John Jones is walking around right now. I want to say at around possibly, he wants to get to 250. He wants 250. He says 250 might be the way he walks around at, 250 or 245. That guy's gotten to as big as probably 270, 280. And that thing, he looks massive.
Really?
Because you got to remember his frame. He has an 84-inch reach.
Yes.
He's about what, 6'4", something like that. You got to understand this guy, and he's looked so lean when he fights. So when he was fighting at light heavyweight, he looked lean when he cut weight. When he made the weight, he looked, and you're looking at me like, okay, he's pretty big, but because he's tall, he's lean. But when you put that mass on him, and you think about the fact that he can wrestle, his striking is diverse.
Yes.
He comes in as a master game planner. Imagine what he could do to certain heavyweights.
It's true.
And then you put him against a guy that if he touches your chin, you're instantly in the shadow realm. Come on, man. Come on. You're asking for too much. Come on, like put this together. But I understand they said they didn't want to do it during the gate and all that. But if you could have a full packed crowd, let it happen.
Yes.
Dana's playing games, man. John wants a little bit more money. I can't blame him for getting a little bit more money, because if you get hit hard enough, you might be out for quite a bit. You know what I mean? You're putting your heavyweight.
So a question like this is does something like this happen in the States, or do they go to like Bahrain or somewhere like that? So it's a global event.
They keep it in the States. For a fight like this will be in the States. This will be in Las Vegas. It'll probably be in Las Vegas because, or it could be on an international fight week, like how this week is like would be considered international fight week if the pandemic wasn't here, because all the people will come. MMA, you generate a lot of money during international fight week. Then they're gonna have it in Las Vegas, and everybody's gonna be betting crazy. So they will have it over, Vegas over there. Africa is a place where they're looking to push. If Francis Ngannou could hold his title down, they're looking to have an event in Africa.
Wow.
They're looking for Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and Francis Ngannou to get on the Africa card. And the thing is, they would have to all win their upcoming fights for this year. Because they wanted to do it. I heard Dana say 2022, 2023 possibly. They want to hold the card in Africa, and they want all of those guys to win their fights, and they could possibly try to make the fight in Africa. And if that's the case, that generates, because you're gonna have the wealthy trying to travel to Africa to go see these guys fight.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you have all these, the Nigerian conglomerate. Everybody's gonna be there. Fan base out the wazoo, because you have representatives.
Right.
You have representatives here. A while ago you would have never expected. We watched a whole bunch of Brazilians win titles. We would have never said, Africa would be put on the map. We got black fighters, yes, but we would never say Africa, Nigeria would be put on the map. We would have champions there, and here we are. 3 solid champions, who represent the country.
True.
And big fan bases, and they're dynamic fighters in Kamaru Usman, Israel Adesanya, and Francis Ngannou. So, and there's a lot more guys who are on the come up too from there. So, it's great. And That's what they want to do. But Jones wants his money.
Yes.
They're playing games with Jones on the money because they say Jones make 10 million. I don't mind them giving him 12 million for that fight, 2 million more. Compared to the what you're gonna draw and what you make. Come on, we know what's going on.
Right.
ESPN takes a good chunk of money, but we know y'all guys are making money off of Venom. You're making
Mhm.
money. You're making revenue. Come on, man. There's money that's been saved during quarantine. You know,
Ton of money.
they've gathered a ton of money, yes, during quarantine. You know, so it's like, come on, give John Jones his little 2 million, his 2 million bone. Give him his 2 million extra. That won't hurt. His 2 million extra, 12 million. And Francis Ngannou, who's a champion, he's taking a big risk. You know what I mean? He fighting a light
Yeah, he is.
heavyweight, the
He
greatest
is.
light heavyweight. John Jones is risking his legacy, his UFC legacy. Come on, man. Give Francis his 10 million. You know what I mean? He got a
I,
little 10
I
million.
gotta I gotta close this out with a Debbie Downer question.
Okay.
All right. I gotta close it with a Debbie Downer question.
Oh, boy.
And I know I shouldn't do this. I know I should ask you about women bantamweights. So
Oh, I love talking about women in MMA because a lot of people get heated about it. I love it because I like the females in MMA. So yeah, you could go ahead and ask this question, Ted.
okay. Nunez.
Yes.
Total domination, right?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Who do we see coming up to potentially challenge her? Or is there a person to challenge her?
You ready? You ready for the answer?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Please don't say Holly Holmes.
Look at me in the camera, Ted. Look at me.
Yes, yes.
I
got
see you.
I got
you. My aura.
I got
ready?
you. Got
ready?
it. Ready.
Ready? Nobody.
Nobody.
There you go. Your answer.
Got you.
Nobody.
Got you.
Amanda Nunes will retire before she loses that title. I am sorry to say it, but Amanda Nunes as leaps and bounds ahead of the competition in the UFC right now. In that bantamweight division, she has cleaned out that division. The girl right now, Juliana Pena, give credit to her because she's tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
I like being optimistic with fighters. You could ask TJ, I'm a guy who could keep it, level-headed, and I could be optimistic about certain fighters. But Juliana Pena is getting cleaned. I'm sorry. I don't see Juliana Pena going 3 rounds with Amanda Nunes this fight. I don't see nobody beating Amanda Nunes at 135. Only person who will beat Amanda Nunes at 135 is Amanda Nunes herself.
Yes.
That is it.
Agreed.
That is it.
Agreed.
Her skills have progressed so insane. And she is one of the most slept on champions as far as women's MMA goes, that it's ridiculous.
Yes. Agreed.
It is ridiculous. You talking about she headlines events, but they just, you know what I mean? She headlines certain events. She has, but they don't draw that much. But it's because it's a clean cut decision that, she's gonna beat whoever she fights. So it's like, what are you doing? The competition is like wavelengths separated between her and the rest of the division. It's like you've watched Ronda Rousey, right?
Yes.
You've watched Ronda Rousey. From those of you who don't know, Ronda Rousey, bronze medalist judoka, went in Strikeforce, women's champ, beat Miesha Tate, came into the UFC, beat a lot of females. She was trained with Edmond Taverdian, but let's keep it 100. Edmond did jack shit for her career, other than give her the mental to compete. He didn't give her no skills. She had skills herself. She was going off on her own talent, and that's something people have to understand and come to terms with.
Right.
Her judo skills was it because she came in clean, grab, flip, that was it. Arm bar, that was it. Those were things she was doing in the Olympics. You know what I mean? And the people who she fought, just like Poirier and McGregor in the first fight, they were caught in a situation with the lights and the glamour and the pressure. And all Ronda Rousey wanted was the lights on her because she didn't have that after the Olympics.
Right.
When the things was, she was working as a bartender. She picked up a bronze medal in the Olympics, and she's here bartending.
Right.
Because there was nothing after the Olympics for her.
There was nothing.
So, you know, she wanted that glamour. America was with her because she was winning, and she had all that going for her. But Amanda Nunes is lurking, you know, and the hardcores know about Amanda Nunes. They know about her come up, and they know she was improving greatly when she tagged in with American Top Team. She was improving. You know, titles change. You know, Ronda was running the ropes. She was getting 10 million a fight. You know what I mean? Which is insanity. Plus they had sponsors at the time before Reebok.
Yes.
And she was getting Reebok money as well. So we got to think about that. She was getting Reebok sponsorship. So they was making a little extra money on the side, which some people get mad about because, you know, favoritism. But it is what it is.
Of course.
You bring in the fans, you know. She got the sponsorship money, all that. We got hard workers like Nunes. Now, Ronda got head kicked by Holly Holm. We remember that. Holly Holm gets choked out by Miesha Tate. We remember that.
Yes.
Miesha Tate now ends up being a main event because they lost the main event on UFC 200. And Miesha Tate wanted what Ronda was having. The lights. She wanted the glamour. She wanted the moment because she felt Ronda took that from her. That was always her gripe with Ronda. You had it. You had the moment. You headlined UFC 200 against Amanda Nunes. And Amanda Nunes went in there like Cujo and tore you to shreds. Now, and then she becomes champion. But for some reason, she didn't get that draw ability. Where we have Miesha Tate and Ronda Rousey, they had the looks, they had the appeal for the fans. Amanda Nunes didn't have that, but she had the skill. She had the hard skill and the confidence in what she does. And then she go out there and she did her thing. People don't appreciate that.
Right.
So it's like, what the hell's going on? You have this girl who's killing people, beating people up. What are we going to do? She beat up Miesha Tate. Now she fights Ronda Rousey. The draw comes in. You know, Ronda Rousey still made about 8 figures for that fight. And she was a challenger. Amanda Nunes made like $3 million.
Right.
She made $3 million. She was holding the title. And Ronda Rousey made about 7 figures, 8 figures.
She had fully went Hollywood, Mr. B.
Yeah. She went to Hollywood after she lost. She came back. Yeah. She didn't do no promotions, none of that. And Nunes won. Now Nunes is fighting everybody. And you see in the skill difference. That's the whole thing. The skill difference was there, air apparent. They thought that they could, you could use Ronda Rousey to build up the notoriety for Amanda Nunes.
Right.
Because she beat 2 former champions. And they kept trying to do that when they had Holly Holm come in and fight Amanda Nunes. But Amanda was a co-main eventer. When she tried to be a main eventer, the interest is not there because the skill gap is painfully far and wide between her and the rest of the division. They had her win. Beat Chris Cyborg. You know, she fought Chris Cyborg for the featherweight title. They had their issues there, but they had Chris Cyborg there because Cyborg's a big name in the UFC.
Right.
And Cyborg was fighting people, but they pushed that fight early. If Cyborg wins, Cyborg beats Nunes. Cool. But if Nunes beats Cyborg, that's big notoriety for Amanda Nunes.
Right.
Amanda Nunes is now the featherweight champ, but outside of Chris Cyborg, who's there to fight in the division? You had only two girls that were there to fight. You had Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson both won titles in Invicta. That's the all women's promotion.
Okay.
Skill gap's totally different though. Amanda Nunes cleaned the both of them. She beat up Felicia Spencer for 5 rounds straight because Felicia Spencer could absorb punishment. She's a legit 145er. And Megan Anderson, she just wasn't ready. She wasn't ready at all. She looked so outclassed, outmaneuvered. It's just bad. That was just a bad beating, and she lost by submission. That was it. And they try their hardest to build her up, but they can't because of that skill gap, that skill difference.
Gotcha.
Now everybody knows what Amanda Nunes could bring, but it's because you need somebody who's legitimate that you could believe in to be that headliner. But as far as the drawing power, Amanda Nunes is the big fish in a small pond. I don't think nobody in that division is going to be that draw power as far as for Amanda to be a main eventer. But to be in the co-main, that's no problem. She's there. She's a lock. But going to your question, nobody. Featherweight or bantamweight. A lot of good talents coming up, Ted. I'll tell you that for sure. I'll never be a Debbie Downer on the division as a whole, but right now Amanda Nunes is wavelengths above everybody. And some people, to clinch on to that one, some people want Kayla Harrison to come in from the PFL to fight Amanda Nunes at 145. Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes are teammates, both in American top teams. Kayla's not she's not opposed to fighting Amanda. I think that's an interesting fight to have because Kayla's a 2-time gold medalist judoka, but she's improved a lot being on that team because, as I said, Mike Brown is a great coach, master strategist. There's a lot of talent there to be had. And unlike Ronda Rousey, she's improved. She not only has her judo, but she has her wrestling. She can wrestle. That's one thing we never seen from Ronda. Ronda Rousey couldn't wrestle. Ronda Rousey had bad knees, and some people never knew that. So she never really adapted a wrestling game. I always said it. That was one of the things that plagued her overall game. If she was able to wrestle, she would have been a lot more dominant than she was. But it happened. But but with the Kayla Harrison thing, Kayla wants money. Kayla wants to be signed because she knows her worth. Dana White's playing games and talk about she might not be ready. But we've seen people that are in the UFC, women-wise, who didn't look ready. You know what I mean? You had Sarah McMahon, silver medalist in wrestling. And, you signed her when she was about 6-0, 6 or 7-0. And you had her fight for the world title at 2 fights in. She wasn't ready, but what the hell you did that for? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just ridiculous. But I think when the time comes, you make that money, get that fight. But till then, Amanda Nunes, big fish, small pond.
Gotcha. Mr. B, our guy JoJo, want to thank you for coming through, blessing us with your knowledge. Tell our fans, our viewers, our listeners, people that are going to hear this, whether it's through archive listens or replays or through our podcast, best ways to get in contact with you. How do we follow you on social media? Novice fans like myself. Of course, we got Big Mike, who's in the comment section, Cope's Corner. He's always doing it up. But how do we find you on social media to find out what's happening in the world of MMA?
Cool, man. To find me, you can find me here on Haps at Mr. B, the MMA guy. I usually do my thing if I'm not here solo, I'm usually, teamed up with TJ, Jaw
Shout out
West,
to
aka
TJ.
Jason, Brian, Brian TX Cat, well,
Yeah,
Thailander,
big shout out to
you know,
Brian,
TX Cattle Skull,
Jason.
well, TX Cattle Skull. Yeah, man. We with those guys. We do random things. We talk wrestling. We have a jerk reel that goes on where we watch horrible
Yes.
movies. We
Yes.
get a laugh reel where we're watching pretty good movies. We really talk the talk on wrestling. He gave me the opportunity to speak some MMA, so I've been putting him on some MMA. Jason, he's knowledgeable on MMA too. Some people try to clown him as a casual, but he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. He
No,
knows
I'm
his
the
stuff.
casual fan.
He knows his stuff. He might not know how to pronounce people's names, and TJ's been kind of surprised that I know how to. And I say I just, it just picks up real quick. I'm able to read names and figure out, what they're about. Fighters, fighters movements and stuff like that. But yeah, man, that's what we do there. But yeah, I'm usually on there, and you find me on Twitter at Mr. B at Mr. B 1986, man. I'm
Got you.
usually on there. I usually throw in a random topic, whether it's MMA, some wrestling, but I like to throw a lot of MMA stuff on there. I would retweet stuff that I see. I'd share an opinion on what I think about a fight. I try to get feedback on certain things.
Mr. B, hold on one sec. You can continue talking.
Huh?
You can continue talking. I'll be right back.
Okay, sure. Yeah, you find me on Twitter, and yeah, I'm usually talking the talk. I used to be on Periscope. I had like some accounts there. I had Mr. B. I had Mr. B, the MMA guy. The MMA guy. Yeah, man. Watch fights or whatever. But I'm on here on Haps, trying to give y'all the rundown on what's happening in the MMA. Because the thing I came on here for Haps, because I came from Periscope, and I was just trying to look to see how I could do my thing on here. And then I kind of looked to see who else was doing MMA stuff on here. And there was very few guys, but Mike was out here, man. Mike and his team was out here. But they was doing their thing. And, Mike went ahead, but and did his thing. So he's out here still doing the thing, you know what I mean? Giving y'all betting tips, knowledge that he thinks, his opinion, his views on fights. And I was like, that's cool, man. Talk to him or whatever. Managed to talk to him and link up. That's cool. So, so I was like, man, I'm gonna share my knowledge on here, and just, for people who don't know, because
I definitely appreciate you coming through here, because like I said, this is a way to grow the sport.
Yeah.
This is a huge way to grow the sport. And there's so many more. I mean, MMA, in my mind, MMA dwarfs boxing. Because every once in a while we'll get a good boxing match. So we're gonna get one coming up with Spence and Pacquiao, even though I think Spence is gonna wash Pacquiao. But
yeah.
And then you got Fury, you got Wilder, you got stuff like that. Yeah. But MMA has so much to offer from the various leagues. And it's always on.
Yeah, it's always on. There's a lot of events from a lot of organizations. Even you could go on YouTube and just search up smaller promotions and you'll find those, Fight TV, which is, become a streaming service. You can find MMA on there. They have KSW, that European event where the organization, they don't care about PEDs. So you can see guys juice to the gills. They have former world strongman Mariusz Pudzianowski, who's probably weighs like freaking I don't know, like 300 plus pounds. Who cares? His veins pop out his neck, his head, his arms everywhere. They don't care, They really don't care. But
right.
I digress. There's a lot of good events, a lot of free events as well. They have XMMA, which comes on YouTube right now, and they have it on their website. Invicta's out here, women's MMA. You could catch them on Friday. They've switched up to Access TV after they left UFC Fight Pass. They're doing their own thing. They stream their events on YouTube as well as Access TV, as I said, which used to be the former HD. Not
Yes.
is it HD Net? Yeah,
Eight-
HD Net. Yeah,
Yeah, HDNet. It used to be
Yeah.
Mark Cuban.
yeah. They used to be on there. They're on there now, and they stream their events on YouTube as well. So double up on the viewership. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I do have one thing that's I find it interesting. So let's say either through the BR app, and I'm not a rep for ONE FC, but through the BR app, I notice every once in a while they'll have a live match, and I'm sitting here saying, well, what time is it in Singapore for them to have a live match? You know, because I'm like, isn't it like a 12-hour difference or something like that? I'm like,
About 24 hours. Is it a 12? Is it a 12 or 24-hour?
yes,
I think it's about a 24-hour difference. It's like a one whole day
it's
difference.
crazy.
Yeah, because it's like 8 something at night, and over
Yes.
here, it's like night, literally night, and here it's like early morning, like 12. Yeah, 12 to some between 12 and 24. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's a whole entirety difference. Yeah.
I just noticed that when I had to turn down the lights because the lights were too hot. I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, I noticed that with ONE FC when I was watching it on TNT. I'm like, how am I watching this live? I'm like, yo, is it like 8 o'clock in the morning where they're fighting? You know, so and I'm wondering, is it tape delay? Is it this? I mean, I remember when PFL was on NBC Sports Network, then all of a sudden it gets pushed over to ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
Of course, we got Bellator on Fridays on Showtime and CBS Sports Network.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's really a lot, and it's great. And to see some of these fighters kind of dip through, because in our minds, being wrestling fans, we're like, okay, there's Ring of Honor, there's of course WWE, there's AEW, there's and then you start to have TNA, Impact Wrestling, but then you start to have the other tiers of outfits out there, and like the NWA and the indie the indie networks, like GCW and stuff like that really crazy stuff with dudes getting hit with fluorescent bulbs and all of that stuff, and you're like,
oh man,
all right,
so CZW, ICW, all those promotions,
so it's good to see we have for this crowd, for the dads out there that are interested. I think you helped Mike too. You guys helped to open our eyes to this sport, and it's not as barbaric as it was made out to be as 10 years ago. Because I remember Governor Cuomo in New York saying, "Oh, there'll never be a UFC match, or there'll never be this," and everyone's open to it now.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Cuomo's lucky he wasn't there like back in the 90s.
I know.
These dudes had no gloves.
Straight bare knuckles,
Come on, man. Come on, Oh man.
So I guess my last question for you is bare knuckles fighting champion, bare knuckles league. Is that for the washed up MMA fighters?
Bare knuckle fighting championship is an interesting thing because bare knuckle fighting is an old sport. Some people don't know that. This is a long, old sport. This is like UK days or like early army days or something like that. Super old. It's been existing for quite a while, man. For the old school pugilist, it picked up in the UK a little while ago, some years ago, before people said, okay, let's make it official here in the States. It was in the UK. There was a bunch of small organizations in the UK, and guys were going over there from the States here to go fight over there to make money.
Okay.
You know, then you had this guy Feldman who came out and said, "Hey, we might have an idea out here. You know, MMA's picking up. You know, we got boxing that's doing this thing. Let's get bare knuckle in here." And it was a little bit confusing because it's like bare knuckle here in the States. That's a circus show, like Mike is saying. You know, it's like one of a circus show. Bare
Right.
knuckle fighting. Who's gonna care about this? What's the big deal about this? People who are gonna try to punch each other, you know? Who cares? People started caring after the first event. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it was wackiness, but also we seen some guys who are legit boxers. And they literally came in here, either they have an amateur record or a pro record, but never really made it big. And they're fighting here. Wait a minute. What?
Right.
For real? You know what I mean?
Right.
Then they throw in a couple MMA fighters out here, and you're like, oh, MMA guys, they're tough. They're coming in to kill these guys.
Right.
I watched the fight in the heavyweight division, the first event, Eric Prindle versus Sam Shoemaker. I had no clue who Sam Shoemaker was. For Eric Prindle, I knew because he was a heavyweight out of Bellator during the early stages of the Bellator when they had the tournament format. He was up. He was in the army, I think. He served. He came out big guy, Ted, monster. Sam Shoemaker's like 234. He looks so small. Got a beard. Looks so, you know what I mean? He had that whole southern like twang to him. You know what I mean? He had the long USA shorts. He had the old school boots on. You know, he looked so like old southern style. You know what I mean? Like he's coming out here to brawl. Fight started. They threw a couple punches. This man Prindle went to throw. Sam Shoemaker threw an overhand right. I never seen a man go down so fast in my life. It was ridiculous. I said, what in the world just happened? After that, I was hooked. Because Sam Shoemaker had a boxing record, but not a big boxing record. But he went out there and cleanly set this man, who's been an MMA fighter and had his fights, so he should know what was going on, set him up to get laid out flat. Then you had guys like Reggie Barnett that showed up. Reggie Barnett, good boxer, comes in with technical abilities. He's picking his fighters apart with the jab, simple basics, jabs, bob and weaves, head movement. You know what I mean? Straight punch, straight combinations, and just backing off. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. But then we had a couple more MMA fighters that came in. And those MMA fighters brought more viewers because of what they were known for. They didn't bring the slack, you know, the plain guys who had decisions. They brought guys who were action fighters. So that brought more attention. And those guys were showing up. So you had more and more, and you have these guys from all different ranges who were just brawlers who were coming up to try to be these bare knuckle fighters, guys who have MMA backgrounds, people who have boxing backgrounds.
Right.
And that's what just brought up, you know, the sport. And they have a good fan base right now, a pretty solid fan base. They have their sponsors, you know, free sponsorship. You know, they have their sponsorship going for them. Whoever wants to sponsor them, sponsor. Paige Van Zandt jumped on, you know, and people say she's too pretty to be bare knuckle boxing. But, you know, she did all right for MMA. But her power is not in her fighting. It's in her promotion ability.
It's in her promotion. It's in her social media.
Yeah, she makes you know what I mean? She's making six figures. She's making six figures just off of sitting there and just doing her IGs. Come on now. She's on OnlyFans. And imagine what she's generating over there.
Crazy.
You know what I mean? And she could be out here just probably showing cooking videos and her painting a picture using an Etch-a-Sketch. You know what I mean? And she's probably seeing 5-6 figures off of those little clips.
Yes.
Come on. So, you know, it's doing real great. And now they picked up a couple good ladies. They had Pearl Gonzalez, who used to fight for the UFC. She's sexy. Oh, my God. but she's tough. She's from out of Chicago. You got Rachel Ostrovich. Rachel Ostrovich wasn't one of the best of fighters, but that girl is thick, and self promotion ability. They know what they're doing. You're bringing more eyes. Then you have violent fighters, Luis Palomino, who fought Justin Gaethje twice, bloody battles. That guy's no nonsense, and now he's like the angry Theo up in bare knuckle fighting championships. No nonsense. He's an angry Theo. In Spanish, Theo is uncle. So he's a mean uncle. You know that uncle who's no nonsense?
Yes.
You touch the barbecue, he slap you. He like, yo, I man the barbecue. You know what I mean? That type of uncle, He tell you don't change my channel when you come in.
Yes.
That uncle, he's in there no nonsense. And you have all these other vets. Hector Lombard. Hector Lombard just had a fight against Joe Riggs. He won, Then this other guy, Lorenzo Hunt, comes in and talks trash talk. This guy literally looked up at him in his face and hit him with 2 hooks.
Wow.
Like, no, just looked at him and said, "Oh yeah, work." Boom, boom. I'm like, what? I'm like, but that's what it is. And that's the realness. That's the realness that Bare Knuckle brings. And so
nice.
There we are. So if you're a fan, if you're not a fan, I recommend you watch. They got a YouTube channel. They got a couple of fights and events that they have there for free. Go watch those. Have a kick out of them. You know what I mean? The ladies bring it. The guys bring it, of course. Their last event was nuts. They have 4 title fights. I give it a thumbs up. You can get a solid thumbs up from me on the Bare Knuckle, man. I'm a believer in Bare Knuckle, and I think it'll do a lot. It'll do better. It'll do a lot. It's doing good now. It's gonna do even better.
Got you.
Even better.
Got
yeah.
you.
But as far as you said, like the MMA fighters going in last place, it's an option. It's an option.
Okay.
Because they're getting the signing and they're getting the sponsorship.
Right.
The big thing there is the sponsorship money. Because you have free you're getting that open sponsorship. So you could pick up a couple and you're seeing your 5 figures when you walk out of there. Your 5, possibly 6 figures, depending on how big the sponsorship is. People forget the importance of sponsorship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sponsorship is everything.
All across the board. You know what I mean?
Sponsorship is everything. Sponsorship is important for the stuff that we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of like, that's the lifeblood of, our environment, of course, for these MMA athletes, boxers, and all the above. So I do have one final question for you. I promise this is the last question.
Hey man, I'm here. You don't got to cut it off.
I was watching it. I was watching it 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago.
K1?
I turned to it. I said, "What am I watching?" And I saw Anderson Silva in the ring against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
Oh, the fight. Yeah.
Fight.
That happened.
Said, what am I watching?
Before you continue, hold on a second. For people who don't know about the Anderson Silva versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight, I think it's still up on YouTube. You could search it and you could try to watch it. That's how I did. Go ahead, Ted.
No. I just want to say to you, Jojo, what were we watching? Like,
it was madness.
Is something like that supposed to happen?
It was madness. But I will tell you right now, I had faith in Anderson Silva beating Julio Cesar Chavez.
Okay.
That sounds crazy, but I'm going to tell you why I believe that Anderson Silva had an opportunity to beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. has a lot of fights and he has wins. And, I'm not trying to discredit his, who he's fought. He's fought names, but there's times where he has lapses in fights in his career. And it happens when guys tend to not fold and come back and bring pressure on him. Anderson Silva brought pressure on him. Cesar tried to fight his fight, but Anderson Silva brought pressure on him and did enough to get that win.
Gotcha.
We seen Julio Cesar Chavez fight Daniel Jacobs and try to fight Jacobs and brought pressure to Jacobs. If you remember that fight, Jacobs came back.
Yes.
Jacobs was coming back.
Mhm.
And what happened? And what happened? What happened later in that fight? Cesar quit.
He's not his
Cesar
father.
left.
He's
Cesar
not
left.
his father.
And his dad was upset.
Set.
He said his nose broke. Then he said something happened with his hand. But neither of those things happened.
Right.
He had no injury. He folded. Remember when he fought Canelo?
Yeah.
What happened there? He tried to fight Canelo. Canelo brought pressure.
Yep.
He did nothing. Nothing for 11 rounds after that first round.
Yep.
That's what happens with Cesar Chavez Jr. No disrespect to him. But when you put pressure, he folds.
Gotcha.
He folds.
Gotcha.
He folds.
I was just, I didn't even know this was happening.
Yeah, it happened.
And I
Anderson
turned it
Silva
on.
Yeah.
And I said, what? and you guys are going to laugh at me because I looked and then I said like this. I said, what am I watching? I said, what am I watching? I had to get my grandpa, Jojo, I had to get my grandpa glasses out. I said, what is this?
I seen it announced on Twitter and I retweeted it. I had to double check it on my phone. I couldn't believe when they announced it.
Right.
I said, wait a second. He's going to box Chavez Jr.?
Box.
I know he wanted to box Roy Jones for like so long, for years.
Right.
And I thought that was going to be the boxing fight to possibly happen because you can understand that. They're about the same age. You can understand that.
Right.
You fighting Julio Cesar Chavez. And I'm like, Chavez could possibly beat him, but is Chavez motivated like Anderson Silva is for the boxing fight? Those were the questions that were in my head. Because I know Chavez is, you know what I mean? You know, what his tendencies are in fights. But Anderson Silva, it was like, whoa, the age. But if Anderson wants to go out and prove a point,
yes,
man, he will go out there and prove his point. So, yeah, man, that was crazy. I was like, whoa. I didn't get to watch it fully, but then I seen the results. And then I watched it that Sunday. And I was just like, man, look at him go.
It was right after, I think it was right after the Nets and Bucks when Kevin Durant ran out of gas. I think it was either when he ran out of gas or when he hit the big shot for Game 6. So I don't know. You know what? I'm going to say it's when he ran out of gas. He played the full 53-minute game. And then so I was like, all right, the game's over. What I'm going to do? So I start, hitting the remote. I'm like, let's see what else is on. And I said, what is this? And so I text one of my guys. I said, yo, are you watching this? And I took a picture of it because I said, yo, I don't believe what I'm watching. Yeah. And one of my other boys was like, yo, I'm watching it too. and I was like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm not in some alternate universe because I said Anderson Silva's on my screen boxing. And he looked decent.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the part. He looked decent. He looked decent. Yeah.
Jojo, he looked decent, man. I don't know, man. I was like, huh?
Are we watching the same thing? Like, what is this?
Right. What is this? So I'm looking around and I'm like, okay. So I sit there and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I think that same night, Julio Cesar Chavez also fought.
Yeah.
Because he fought Camacho Jr.
I think so.
I think
He fought somebody on that card. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he might have fought Camacho Jr. Hector Camacho Jr.
Somebody. I don't know. I think
I was like,
I think it was Camacho's dad or something like that. I think he fought.
Yeah, something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something crazy, man. But man, I want to thank you for coming through here and for us to air this out. I'm excited for the main event. Yeah, for tomorrow for the main event. I'm excited for the whole card because it's going to be like a supersized card.
Yeah.
You know, with the undercard, the prelims, and then with the main event. Because usually, I mean, being a novice, I'll usually turn to it at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah, just for the main card.
Yeah, just for the main card. But that was the thing that I learned, and I think I told you before on one of TJ's live streams that I was at Bellator, 206, and I saw Michael Venom Page, and I took that ride to Connecticut to Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go watch an event live. So I had asked my wife, and she was like, "There's no way in hell I'm going with you to an MMA event." So I was like, "Well, we can go there. We can gamble, and then if you don't want to go to the event, you don't have to go to the event." She was like, "Nah." I was like, "All right." So I called one of my guys. I said, "Listen, we got to go." I said, "I got 2 tickets." He was like, "All right." So we drove up there. Gambled a little bit. And like I said to you, you'll be surprised. Well, you won't be surprised, but for me, I was surprised, and I'm sure Mike wouldn't be. The prelims were as good as the main card.
Yep. It's just, it happens.
What's up with that?
It happens. And sometimes they're even better than the main card.
Yes.
That's why I tell people never sleep on the prelims. And the UFC learned that. Because before they never aired prelims. They used to just air main cards.
Right.
And you would just have to hear the results about the prelims. And they realized that, people in the events, there's people who want to see those prelim fights because you learn who's coming up. So when they started doing these prelim fights, you know what I mean? You got to pick up talent, but you could showcase those guys on the prelims.
Right.
And that's what became the thing. Now you see a lot of people on the prelims. You see main event guys now on the, show up sometimes on the prelims.
Gotcha.
So it's just like, up and coming talent. And man, do they shine, man. Some of those talents, whoo, they shine. There's a guy on the come up by the name of Adrian Yanez. He's out of Texas. He's going to be fighting a kid by the name of, oh my God, how did I forget his name? Randy Costa. There you go.
Okay.
Randy Costa. They're going to probably be on a Houston card coming up soon. But Yanez was a guy who was on the prelim card, then showed up on the Fight Night main cards. That kid is KOing people left and right. They call him the bantamweight Jorge Masvidal. He kind of looked like him when he got the shortcut hair. But that kid is smooth. He is smooth with his striking. And Randy Costa too. Really clean with their striking. They're going to fight soon. So be on the lookout for that. These prelims here for later on 264. Ryan Hall, a jiu-jitsu savage. But you couldn't tell by when you look at this man. This man looks like he just, he'll serve you your drink at Starbucks. You know what I mean? Just a plain old kid. He looked like he worked for Geek Squad. But if you was handling him, if you met him and you said, "Hey, we're going with jiu-jitsu," and you say 5 minutes, let's see how many holds you could get on one another, he's probably tapping you out 7 times out of those 5 minutes or more.
Wow.
Yeah. He's fighting a guy by the name of Ilya Topuria, who's out of, I think if I remember correctly, I think he's out of Georgia, which is the European country, if I remember correctly. Nasty submission artist as well, but he's improved with his striking. And a lot of people have eyes on that because it could be a jiu-jitsu whirlwind, or it could end up being somebody getting knocked out. It's a fight that a lot of people have their eyes on as far as prelim fights go.
Mm-hmm.
For people who also want to tune into the prelims, Nico Price is fighting Michel Pereira. All you got to do is YouTube either name. Highlights galore. I mean, Nico Price literally knocked out a man using his foot and hammer fist. This guy's jaw was lined up with his foot, and he used hammer fist against his foot with the guy's head. This is the foot. This is his head. And he hammer fisted this man into unconsciousness.
Wow.
This man head kicked a man asleep. This guy is known for getting beaten up and making comeback wins. And you're going up against a guy who knows how to fly, jump off a cage, do all types of crazy stuff. But we learned in a fight a little while back that when he's serious, he is dangerous against Michael Pereira. And he's big for a 170 guy. Both of these guys are pretty big, but Pereira, he's big. He could be easily a middleweight, but he's fighting at featherweight.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me see if I can direct some of you guys into some other fights on here that are gonna be eye catchers for you. I'm predicting also Dricus du Plessis versus Trevin Giles at middleweight to be a banger. We're gonna see hands fly because Giles has been knocking out some people. Plessis might look for a takedown or two, but he's confident in his kickboxing, which means that Giles will look for the KO. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Sugar Sean O'Malley was supposed to be fighting a big name opponent. He's a guy who's on the come up. For a lot of people who don't know, Sugar Sean was undefeated, lost to Marlon Vera, got kicked in the leg, agitated a pre-existing injury. He won his last fight. He's coming back to fight somebody, but unfortunately, the person he was supposed to fight pulled out. So he's fighting a guy by the name of Chris Moutinho. Moutinho's fought a little bit in CES and CFFC. That's I think it's somewhere. So I forget the words originally, but the kid is aggressive. He's improved with his striking. He has all right jiu-jitsu, but as I said with TJ, it's a big opportunity for him. You're fighting on a McGregor card. You're fighting on the main card of a McGregor card, and you're fighting a guy who has a lot of hype behind him in Sugar Sean O'Malley. You gotta show up, kid. If you don't show up and you get beat by Sean, then it's to be expected. But take this opportunity on short notice to do your thing. Even if you don't look, you know what I mean, a divine spirit in there. You know, you can at least go in there, put on a tough fight for Sean, and you know what I mean? You might and put him, man, push him. Push that man to his limit, you know what I mean? Fight him in there. You can't fight rangy with Sean, because if you fight at range with Sean, Sean's gonna put your lights out. That kid is skinny. That kid got the MJ moves in the cage. And when I say MJ, I don't mean Jordan. I mean Jackson. He's smooth. He a smooth criminal. That's straight up. You might not like him. You might not like him. But man, does Sugar Sean move. He is smooth. He is smooth. He's brash, but I give him his credit. When it comes to his stand-up, he can fight, man. What else? Oh, Moutinho's a plus. Yeah, he's a plus 900. So if he wins, that's big money if you put the bets on him.
Wow.
Irene Aldana versus Yana Kunitskaya, number 4 versus number 5. In the division, the bantamweight division. Aldana was somebody that I kind of had hopes in that would fight Amanda Nunes, but she has some glaring holes. Her takedown defense is one of the glaring holes. She has jiu-jitsu, but she shows that if you can hold her down, she might not be able to get it off as clean as she wants to. She's fighting Yana. As I said, Yana's a Taekwondo practitioner. She has jiu-jitsu, but she's improved a lot in her clinch game and her takedowns. So some of those things are kind of wandering problems for Irene. Irene did miss weight for this fight, though. She missed weight by 3 pounds, 3.5 pounds. Yana didn't have to take the fight, but she did, and she's getting 30% of Irene's purse.
Wow.
Yeah. If you miss a pound or two, that's 20%. But if you're missing 3 and over, that's 30%. And you have the option of whether you want to take the fight or not. If you take the fight, you get the purse. You get the purse deduction. You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, man. So Irene is a cool boxer, though. She's a clean boxer. Problem with her, she takes too much punishment. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan. You know what I mean? You want to be an action fighter, cool, but in the female division like that, she takes too much punishment. Her boxing is good, but she gets hit. She gets hit a lot. She gets hit a lot. She got hit by Ketlin Vieira a lot. She got hit by Betch Correia. No, I did not say the other B word. I said Betch. Betch Correia, who fought out of Brazil. Yeah, she got hit by Betch a lot. I didn't understand that one either. But she gets tagged a lot. But her boxing is pretty clean, man. Her boxing, yeah. That Irene's boxing is clean. It's just that her defense boxing wise is kind of iffy. But she has her good kickboxing. She throws good question mark kicks and good body kicks. She likes to use her range. She gets a little aggressive in Irene, but Irene has KO power. That's scary. The girl got KO power with her hands and her feet. So that's a good fight, man, depending on how it flows through. Greg Hardy's on the card. I don't know if you know about Greg Hardy, but Greg Hardy had his case, you know what I mean, with abuse.
Yes.
You know, stemming from football days, and teams didn't want him. He came into the UFC. Well, he was fighting on the regional cards, then UFC, and he brings a lot of attention. But you know, UFC, Dana White, good attention, bad attention. It's attention. If it draws
all
eyes,
attention. Yes.
he's good with it. He's with it. So they want to see him lose. Instead of putting him on the prelim, they moved him to the main card. Crazy, I know. Crazy, I know. But he's there because, as you said, negative or positive, attention is attention.
He's going to draw eyeballs.
So, yep.
Regardless.
And he's going to be fighting the Crazy Kiwi, Tai Tuivasa, a guy who's pretty much standing bang. He's shorter than Greg, because I think Greg's like 6'5" or 6, somewhere between 6'5" and 6'7". He's a smaller guy, but he has a damn strong chin. He's been in some wars, but he's learned to fight a little bit smarter. We'll see though how this fight goes. Either one of those guys could get slept within the first round, or it could go to a possible decision. I doubt it. I hope it goes to somebody getting knocked out. Greg Hardy's cardio has been questionable because he kind of fades in somewhere in the mid-second or third, depending on how you put the pressure on him. Depending on the pressure, if you have him work, he's gonna gas out. He's also had a problem a while back. You know, he asked for his inhaler. You can't do that in an MMA fight, buddy. But he did that. And they actually gave him the inhaler. But it happened. It happened. And he won the fight still. They still gave him the win. I question it, but you know.
Right.
But he did lose his last fight to one of the top 15 in Marcin Tybura by ground and pound. Marcin put him down, had him work. Dude got gassed out. He got worked. That was it. So I'm expecting again a heavy duty fight between those two. Ty might look for the takedown or the clinch. But I'm looking for one of those guys to get put out. You know what I mean? It was just a fun fight between two big heavyweights, man.
Right.
And
so you don't see it going 3 rounds.
I don't see it going 3 rounds. Greg Hardy could try to fight tactical and make it 3 rounds. But two big heavyweights, you on the main card, the pressure's on. They're gonna look to knock each other out, man.
Yes.
Rock'em sock'em robots.
Yes.
And then the co-main, Gilbert Burns, Stephen Thompson, man. Oh boy, Wonder Boy Thompson, and this guy. Oh boy, we're talking about the number 2 versus the number 4, 2 top 5s. Gilbert Burns he did. He just fought Kamaru Usman and lost in that title fight. Came this close to beating Kamaru if he would have just kept composure. He rocked Kamaru and he just went nuts and lost composure. And he lost composure, got that adrenaline dump, came the second round, and Kamaru just took over, man. It sucks, but that's the fight game, you know. He got knocked out, but
Right.
comes with the fight game, you know. So he's been looking to improve a lot for this fight against Wonderboy Thompson. Wonderboy's damn near 40 years old, and he's held on the top 10 spot for years, Ted. For years. He's had 2 title fights, and they can't knock this man off the top 10. And he's damn near 40 years old.
Wow.
That's telling you something. He's
Yes.
a Taekwondo practitioner, and he has put riddles on everybody, man, in everybody's head. People don't know how to deal with his style. He has the Taekwondo point fighting system, and some people are like, man, you know, Wonderboy doesn't quite bring. You know what I mean? He does, or he doesn't quite bring the Taekwondo. You know what I mean? The full Taekwondo. He's been one of the best Taekwondo fighters, I think, out there, outside of MVP. Venom Page, you know, which he might come to the UFC. Who knows? Maybe we'll see. That's all about title fight. That's a whole nother subject in itself. I don't want to drag it, but that's the whole thing in itself. But Wonderboy is skilled. As you heard me talk on Monday, the man understands range. He understands his in and out movements. He's always in that Taekwondo stance. It's hard for him to get the reset. It's hard for you to get him to reset. If you want to reset, you have to get on the takedowns. But because of his movement, it's hard to take him down. Because he's in that stance. But also because he's in that stance, he already has his footing to get in those sprawl positions or to defend off those takedowns because his legs are wide apart. So he's able to branch off, you know what I mean, and fight out of a takedown attempt. Then you have the kick variations. Question mark kicks. He kicks over the shoulder. He has straight kicks, push kicks, teep kicks. This man is like a whole book. If you took Taekwondo, compressed it, and said, yo, I'm going to make a human out of it, that's Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, man. His daddy was a kickboxer, was a Taekwondo champion. Wonderboy is a Taekwondo champion. His dad trains him. His dad's like his coach, one of his coaches. And Chris Weidman's his brother-in-law. So, you know what I mean? He's so good with his punches and all that, man. He's a riddle. He's such a riddle. That style is such a riddle to handle. Ask Jorge Masvidal. He fought him twice and still couldn't figure it out. You know what I mean? Tyron Woodley's been the only person to figure it out outside of Anthony Pettis, and Pettis knocked him out. But, you know, that's not here either. I can explain that, but we'll say that for another time.
Right.
But, yeah, man. And so Gilbert Burns brought in some help. You know, he trains out of Sanford MMA in Florida, which are primarily kickboxers. The great Henry Hooft, who was a former kickboxer himself, he's training a lot of guys out there. You know, so they have a lot of good kickboxers alongside Tyrone Spong. I don't know if you know Tyrone Spong, but Tyrone Spong, K1, former champion, one of the nastiest guys out of Suriname, man. This dude is a killer. That dude has multiple KOs, championships. He's a dude who did kickboxing, tried MMA, and even went to try pro boxing. He was supposed to fight Usyk, Alexander Usyk, a while ago, but that fell out. So I don't know what's gonna ever happen there. But you know, he's training out there too with those guys. So Gilbert's been doing that kickboxing, and he's improved greatly in his striking. But they brought in Raymond Daniels. And if you watch Bellator, you know who Raymond Daniels is.
Yes.
Raymond Daniels is the guy who did that 720 spin for no apparent reason just to knock a guy out with a right hand. He's also the guy who did 720 kicks in Glory Kickboxing to keep people leaning against the ropes asleep. He has slept the man plenty of times. One of the greatest kick. and he's damn near 40 himself too. Scary stuff. So they're bringing in all those looks for Gilbert Burns in that fight, and Gilbert's gonna get a lot of info because Daniels fought Thompson too. They fought a couple years back. So I'm really looking forward to that co-main event and that co-main event, as well as the main event. That just speaks for itself. Trash talk going on with Conor. Dustin's minding his own business. You know what I mean? We're just hoping for a good fight there, man. And the rest of the card is the rest of the card. You could look those up if you want to.
Yeah. It's right on the web. It's right on the web.
A lot of ranked fights on this card, man.
I'm rooting for
Brad Tavares. I'm rooting for Brad Tavares to move up the rankings because he's been in the UFC for a decade. He was there like when he was about 23 years old. He's 33 right now, and now he's in the rankings, and he's looking to move up, man, to number 13, I think it is, or number 12. So I'm hoping he could get up there, man. Opportunity, you know what I mean?
Mr. B, what time does this card start? Because it seems like there's like 12, 13 matches.
Yes. So they usually like to close 5 fights in. So they do 5 fights for the main cards. Then you have the prelims. The prelims will probably air on ESPN at around 8 o'clock. 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, 7 Central, 1 o'clock UK time. That's Ireland and all those other folks out there.
Right.
Before that, there's the early prelims. That'll be probably around 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern, which is about 2:30, 3 o'clock Pacific, 4:30, 5 o'clock Central. Let me get it. Hold on. I just shut down. 10:30, 11 o'clock UK time, PM. There you go. So yeah, man. So yeah, So those will probably be on ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus. If you're not a subscriber to ESPN Plus, go get yourself ESPN Plus.
It's $4.99. Come on.
Yeah, man. And they include if you get the pay-per-view right now, it'll be what is it, $89.99. So you'll be paying for the pay-per-view, but then you get a super discount for the year for your subscription for ESPN Plus. So you could go ahead and do that, man. It's worth it because you get ESPN Plus, you're watching UFC, you're watching PFL, man. You catch the rest of this PFL tournament that's going on.
Yes.
They have great content, man. If you want to go back in time, watch the UFC. The Ultimate Fighter season is going on now between Volkanovski and Ortega. They also have past events that show up there. If you're not into UFC Fight Pass, ESPN Plus is a good option for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. ESPN needs to cut you a check for doing that promo for them. For talking about their packages. Oh, man, JoJo, I really, definitely, really, really, really appreciate you spending the time explaining to, like I said, to our viewers, to our fans, to just, like I said, the everyday common fan. Yeah. It's, MMA rocks. And they have rock stars on this network like yourself who, should get more exposure to what you guys do. Because, like I said, your analysis, I listen to your analysis sometimes when I'm watching. I'll see if you're on. I'm checking through the feed. I'm like, oh, JoJo's on. Okay, boom. And really, really, really good. Really, really good. But I definitely appreciate this, man. And we are going to close out. We're just under the 2-hour mark. I told you originally 35 minutes, but thank you for being so gracious.
Hey, man, no problem.
Sunday Night Smoke, what's going on?
Hey, brother, what's happening?
Yeah, we just had a 2-hour MMA, just adventure intimate, mixed martial arts, combat sports. We touched upon tomorrow's card or today's card and everything under the sun. So definitely want to shout you out and shout out your Twitter account again.
Mr. B at Mr. B 1986, man. I'm here on Haps at Mr. B, the MMA guy, man. I just share knowledge. I'm here for knowledge, MMA knowledge, man. I learned from
Definitely.
all you guys that are broadcasting out here. You know what I mean? I just like talking about MMA. As you can see, I like talking about MMA.
Yes.
And I know, like, you know what I mean. I'm sorry to put in extra time in. You know what I mean?
No,
But
it was perfect. It was
the
perfect.
thing, the thing with me is that I like talking. So if I like talking about the sport,
You
I'm
love the
really
sport.
passionate about the sport. So
You
like,
love
you
the
know,
sport.
so if you want to talk about it and you're willing, you know what I mean, to say, hey, you want to talk?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the one thing I do want to mention, the connection you and I both have being from Long Island, New York, and from the Bronx, New York.
Yes.
So we got New Yorkers in the house. That's what's really good. So shout out to our New Yorkers. Much love. I hope you did well with that hurricane or that rainstorm that hit the area yesterday.
Man, it was all right, man.
That's what matters
It
most.
was crazy. It was crazy though.
It was. It really was crazy. But definitely appreciate you. We're gonna shut this down. Jojo, I really appreciate you. And fans, we want to say thank you, and we will be back soon.